Hey guys, Top Tier Gaming here, coming at you with a retro deck profile of plant dragons. This format was sort of like iffy. You either loved it or you hated it. It's the format right after the terrible Yu-Gi-Oh format of full power dragons, full power spellbooks. But after that format, Konami kind of hit a lot of things, but people found out that dragons were still really playable, even though some people decided they weren't at the very beginning of the format. And this is personally one of my favorite formats, just because this deck had like so many plays. It was so fun. The only problem I found with the format was people were going into time, like almost every game I went into time, like 20 minutes into time every game at all the events I went to. But I just thought I'd profile the deck because it's one of my favorite formats, and I just think it's a great deck overall. So yeah, 3 Tempest, the best dragon by far because it could search Debris Dragon. 3 Redox. He had the best effect from hand to be a Monster Reborn. And he had the most targets out of any of the dragons. Like, Earth is just everywhere in this deck. 3 Blaster. He's the biggest, and he was also an out to problem cards like Ophion. Ophion was really real during this format, and Blaster was one of the cards that could just get around it. 3 Tidal. Tidal's purpose isn't like super important in this deck. All Tidal was he's the 10th, 11th, and 12th dragon. You needed more dragons for more stuff to banish and keep the engine rolling, keep the pluses going. And like Tidal was like the discard fodder because Tidal didn't have anything special. Like Tidal wasn't the biggest, didn't search anything, but it was still a dragon, so we still played 3 of it. Some people weren't playing Tidal. In fact, there were a couple builds back then that only ran the Redoxes and the Tempests. Most were running all 12, I do believe. I chose to play all 12. 2 Debris Dragon. This card was just a very explosive card in the deck. You would have Tempest search this card, and you could like play this, summon like a level 1 tuner like Corseska or Guard, which I'll get to in a second. And then with 2 dragons you could make Star Eater Stardust or Star Eater Crimson Blader. And this card could like make Black Rose, and then you'd summon a bunch of dragons after their field was gone, go for a huge amount of damage or game them right there. And Debris Dragon overall was just a really powerful card. Then 1 Guard, 1 Corseska. These were the level 1 dragon tuners. This one was searchable with Tempest, this one with Blaster, this one was also searchable with Ravine. But this one also had 2000 defense. You could pitch it with Blaster if you opened it, and you could pop problem cards. So I just chose to play both. Like, the more tuners in the deck, the better, because you would just make level 8 synchros with your dragons, and it was really good. Since one of the main objectives of the deck was to go to Crimson Blader in the mirror match. Then the Plant Engine. This engine, like, back then was like just a very popular engine. Like, the Plant Engine was dying, but it was viable in this deck. And each plant did something else with the dragons. Like, they all have their own attribute to be banished by the dragons. You could discard Spore with Tempest to search, discard Dandelion to special summon with Redox, and discard Lone Fire with Blaster to pop problem cards. And this engine overall was just really good. Just gave you like a lot of plays and more fodder for like discarding and using the dragon's effects. And then my favorite card in the deck was Card Trooper. This card was really strong. Like, some people opted not to play it later in the format. Throughout the entire format, plant dragons kept evolving, and like builds were changing all the time, but I chose to play this. This card was just really strong to open. You would summon it, mill 3, get dragons in the grave. It'd be a 19 beat stick, and then when it died, you would draw a card, and that was really good. It was just a really strong opening play, and it's Earth for Redox, so not everyone ran it though. And also not everyone ran this card, although like later in the format a lot of people chose to play it because it was really good. 3 Swift Scarecrow. This card was super strong in the like mirror match because if they played Return and tried to game you, you could just Swift Scarecrow them. It was an Earth for Redox, and it just had like, you wouldn't die. It was just one of the better hand traps of the format. Next, 3 Maxi. Another Earth for Redox. As you'll see, there was like just 8 Earths in a row. There was so many Earths you could banish for Redox. And Maxi was one of the strongest hand traps because, you know, Dragon Mirror. There's a lot of special summoning, and you would just play this card to try to draw like into Veilers with Scarecrow, anything so that you wouldn't lose, and it could also stop your opponent from making plays. 2 Veiler, level 1 tuner for your dragons, and like Hand traps were really good in the dragons because you would just, like, you would make all your plays from grave anyways, so, like, Valor being in your hand didn't stop you from anything. That's all the monsters, and then there's the spells, 3 Avine. Arguably, this is one of the strongest cards in the deck. Like, you just wanted to see this first turn because it could fill your graveyard with what you need. It could search Corseska, but mostly you would just be dumping dragons for dragons to get your engine in the grave as fast as possible, so that you could, like, just steamroll over your opponent before they would even get any, like, chance to respond. In fact, there was actually a Dragoonity version of this deck back then, where they would actually run, like, the Phalanx, and they would make level 8 synchros off that, but that version was less popular compared to this version, although it did have, like, nice plays, and it was pretty cool. 3 Sacred Sword of 7 stars. This card is just ridiculous. It made the deck, like, way more powerful than it needed to be. This card was just so much utility. You would banish a dragon, draw 2 cards, and then search the same dragon, which makes it a Pot of Greed, except you thin 1 more card. Or you could banish, like, Tempest and search Debris, which is, like, arguably better than Pot of Greed at that point, because you're searching a card you want and drawing 2 cards, and that's just really strong. This card is just one of the reasons the deck was so powerful. 2 DDR. Not everyone played this card either. I chose to play it. It was a good card, but it was like the only card in the deck that was common as well, which is, or at least now anyways. Back then there were more common cards, but right now this was like the only card in this deck that's common, and it makes me kind of sad. But this card was really good, but people opted not to play it because, you know, people were playing MSTs. You would discard a card, this would get MST'd, you just lost, like, advantage right there. But this could, like, if you messed up your dragon ratios, this could fix it. Like, you banished 1 too many Redox, you know, get 1 Redox back. And it was practically free. The discard, you know, you could just discard any dragon, and it was pretty much free. And it just put, like, another body on board that you could exceed with, swing with. It was just, I liked it. I like playing it, but not everyone played it. 1 Gold Sarcophagus. This card was ridiculous in dragons. You could banish any dragon, get its effect to search, and you could, like, DDR it back, or it was coming to your hand in 2 turns anyways. So Gold Sarcophagus was just a lot of plussing and utility. Then 1 Warning, obvious, and 1 Return from the Different Dimension. This card made the deck what it was. Like, this card was just so sacky. Like, in Mirror Match, if your opponent had this card and you didn't, sometimes you would lose. And that's why later in the format, most people opted to run Swift Scarecrow, because this card was just so sacky, and you just wanted to have an out to it, so that you could, like, after they make their play, you could, like, Crimson Blader and out their board with Big Eyes if you Swift Scarecrowed. So if you Swift Scarecrowed their return play. And then extra deck, I don't have the entire thing, so I'm just gonna run through it rather quickly. And, like, it's a pretty simple extra deck. Like, I have most of the important cards. 1 Formula, you can make it with, like, dandy tokens and stuff. 1 Librarian, because you can make it. 2 Black Rose. This was one of the stronger cards of the deck. It was, you know, you could pop their field, special, like, 4 dragons, and go for a game, or put them on a clock for damage, and it was a dragon to banish too. And it was a level 7, you could actually exceed with it on the field. 1 Stardust, 1 Scrap, 1 Crimson Blader. I played 2 in my variant. You just ran, like, level 8 synchros. 1 Star Eater. This card was good with Debris Dragon, and it was huge. And then you played, like, a couple Big Eye and 2 to 3 Draco Sack. You could make these all the time. They were very powerful. He was, like, deterrent for Dark Hole and stuff, and he was, like, steal your Draco Sack, steal your Crimson Blader, steal whatever. So that is the deck. I hope you enjoyed. This format was, like, a really great time in Yu-Gi-Oh! For me, because they had just hit so many staples, and, like, Compulse went to 1, I believe, that format. I could be wrong, though. Like, it was just a really fun format with a lot of plays, although very little diversity. So yeah, that was the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe. This was Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.